On page 14, we're going to finish up digestion regulation for about an hour, then move on to metabolism. So we're going to learn some words on this case study. Blah, 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 someone's got a duodenal ulcer. So let's figure out where a duodenal ulcer versus a peptic ulcer. So first off, what's an ulcer? A hole. Okay, medical terminology, where's a duodenal ulcer going to be? That's the small intestine. That's creepy. Peptic ulcer is stomach. Pepto-Bismol, Pepsid AC, Pepsin. So the difference is one's a hole in your duodenum, small intestine. One's your peptic ulcer. One's in your stomach. Why? Why would you get a hole in your small intestine? Acid, very good. From where? Where's the acid come from? From the stomach. Remember your chart, the stomach has hydrochloric acid as an other, right? So too much acid from stomach burns a hole in ulcer, right? What might be another reason besides excess acid? There's another possible reason. No buffer. Remind me from your chart what the buffer was for. To control the pH. So I could have too much acid or not enough buffer, right? Either of those would cause me to get too much acid in my stomach and burn a hole. So now we're going to have to figure out this gastrin thing. To understand gastrin, we have to learn the hormones of digestion. One of these thou shalt know kind of things. Luckily, there are only 3 you have to know. So we're going to be writing down 3 hormones of digestion. The first one we have to know is gastrin. Is a hormone of digestion. Can you guess where it's made from the name?
Stomach.
Made in the stomach. Made by the stomach. So that's a hormone made by the stomach. It has a target. Because don't remember from last term what a target means. Where it goes, where it has an effect. So I'm going to show you an animation of this gastrin thing so we can understand what it's doing. So we're going to see some animations of the hormones of digestion. So they didn't actually turn it off. There we go. Get it on. Play. Working? I'm not hearing any sound. Oh, I see why.
It's off.
Change in a body condition.
Okay.
The hormone gastrin regulates the gastric phase of digestion. The secretion of gastrin is stimulated in 2 ways. 1. The stomach fills with food and distends, activating stretch receptors. 2. Partially digested proteins increase pH, activating chemoreceptors. When stimulated, G cells in the mucosa of the stomach secrete gastrin into the bloodstream.
That's my stomach making.
Gastrin targets and binds to parietal and chief cells in gastric glands.
So where are those parietal and chief cells? They're in the what?
Small intestine.
No. Where are they at? Where are they at? They're in the stomach. So it's a hormone made in the stomach and it targets its own cells. It's kind of bizarre. So it goes from stomach to stomach, and because it's a hormone, we use the bloodstream. But I'm leaving the stomach and going right back to it. So gastrin's a hormone that's basically a stomach hormone. Let's figure out what it's for. So we know it's made in the stomach. Let's see what it does.
Under the influence of gastrin, parietal cells then produce more hydrochloric acid.
Boom. So what's gastrin do to the stomach? More acid production. So gastrin's job is to turn on acid in the stomach. So gastrin turns on stomach acidity, peptic acidity, pick a word. So gastrin's job is to activate acid in the stomach. Oh wait, there's more.
Chief cells produce more pepsinogen, the precursor to the protein digesting enzyme pepsin.
So what else do you get more of? Pepsin. So you get more acid and more pepsin, which is the enzyme. Therefore, you're going to summarize it, you get more stomach activity. The stomach is going to do more of its job making acid and making enzymes. So gastrin's job is to turn on the stomach, make it go more. Stomach activity. Make sense? So let's go back to our case study briefly. Yeah, that's where I want to be. We learned what gastrin does. Let's go back to here. So they give, that's creepy. They're going to give this patient a gastrin stimulation test. They're going to give the patient gastrin. And let's see what happened. The gastric juice pH fell to 1.9, which means what?
Okay, more basic.
More acidic. So is the stomach working or not if gastrin makes it get more acidic?
Yeah.
Yes, that's what should happen. So this proves the stomach is okay. It makes acid when there's gastrin. So gastrin tells the stomach to make acid. The stomach is obeying the hormone. It's making acid. Now the next concept, we're fasting. So what should happen to gastrin if you're not eating?
Go down.
It should go down. So was gastrin going down? It was what? 0. So what does that prove? The stomach is fine. You're not making any extra acid. So the stomach is okay. So what I'm proving is that the stomach will make more acid when I tell it to, and stop making acid or stop making gastrin when I don't eat. So the stomach comes on and turns off. Right? So what does that leave us as the possibility when it doesn't seem to be this problem? What's the other choice?
Small intestine.
You're getting low on buffer. So the stomach is fine, but your buffer isn't able to negotiate that. So if you look at question 5 and 6, this will make it understand. So my stomach is turning on and turning off, but I'm still getting the burning. So why does the pain go away after the meal, but come back? What's that tell you? Lack of buffer. So when do you think you use all your buffer up? At the beginning of the meal or later?
Later. Beginning.
Use it at the beginning. So you dump it all out at the beginning of the meal. So for this question, you have enough buffer to do it quickly, but not long term. So you run out of buffer. That's why it doesn't last forever. You run out of it early in the meal. So what are you going to recommend for this person to eat if they don't have buffer to reduce acidity? What did we give that guy last week that had too much acid? The brat stuff, right? So you told me last week it's going to be something that's low in protein, not very acidic, because I don't want to have my stomach make a bunch of acid. Make sense? Yes?
What's the buffer?
The buffer is bicarbonate. So that's bicarbonate ion made by the pancreas. Yes?
You just give them bicarbonate?
You can. It's called Alka-Seltzer. Baking soda. You can. And that would help somewhat. So you can take Tums. Yeah.
Is that just short-term fix?
That's a short-term fix. So you have to figure out why you're not making this buffer at some point. But this is a problem with the stomach is fine, but the buffer isn't working.
So stomach isn't gonna, if you took pills of antacid, the stomach obviously doesn't ruin its effect before it makes its way to the small intestine.
Correct. So that's the problem is you have to sort of balance that. I'm going to show you a video here, an animation here. Speaking of acid production, let's see how the stomach actually makes acid. I told you there's acid in there. Now you have to kind of understand how. So this is going to show us how the stomach actually makes acid in number 1. Right? Lights. There. So this is my stomach. The food's over on the right. The blood's on the left. The stomach's in between. So here's my stomach. Here's my Whopper with cheese. Here's my blood.
Hydrochloric acid is produced in parietal cells through a complex series of reactions. Carbon dioxide diffuses into the parietal cell, and the enzyme carbonic anhydrase catalyzes.
Whoa, where'd you hear that before?
Respiration.
That was respiration. That was the equation you learned 2 weeks ago, right? It's the same equations. Your body does the same math everywhere, right? Where I reinvent the wheel. So I'm going to take CO2, carbonic anhydrase, and H2O, do that equation that was over there last couple weeks ago, and
A
try to make
reaction
acid
between
out of
the
it.
carbon dioxide and water to form carbonic acid. Carbonic acid dissociates into bicarbonate ion and hydrogen ion, and the bicarbonate ion is transported back into the bloodstream. An ion
So
exchange.
that's your bicarbonate. That's going to be the buffer. So I can use that in my pancreas for buffering. I can use that in my lungs. I can use it anywhere. So I'm going to keep the bicarbonate for use. This H plus is going to be used in my stomach.
Molecule in the plasma membrane exchanges bicarbonate going out for chloride coming in.
Remember that?
The hydrogen ions are actively transported into the duct of the gastric gland, and the negatively charged chloride ions diffuse with the positively charged hydrogen ions. Potassium ions are counter-transported into the parietal cell in exchange for hydrogen ions. The net result is production of hydrochloric acid in the parietal cells and its secretion into the duct of the gastric gland.
Look over here, I'm getting HCl, hydrochloric acid, being formed over here by breaking down what you exhale over here. It's the same equation you learned 2 weeks ago. So any cell that needs to make an acid or a buffer is going to do the same math, basically. You decide to keep one and not the other. Pretty cool, eh? Your stomach is like a lung, kind of in reverse. Okay? But that's where these buffers and acids are coming from, is the bicarbonate system out of your lung. Make sense? So gastrin makes this happen more. You're producing more acid in the stomach with gastrin. Make sense? Now we got to add the other hormones. So there's 2 more we have to add on there. So we had gastrin made by the stomach to turn it all on. Hormone number 2 that you have to know, bless you, it's called secretin, or secretin. You have both ones. I'll write the third one up for you. The third one we're going to talk about has a big long name called cholecystokinin. By the way, that one's abbreviated CCK. So on a test, if you write CCK, I know you mean the one you can't spell. All right? Cholecystokinin. These are the other 2 hormones that are going to be part of digestion. So to see what they do, I'm going to show you that animation one more time. So we left off on the gastrin. All right?
Gastrin also targets smooth muscle cells in the gastric muscularis and pyloric sphincter. As a result, gastric motility increases and the pyloric sphincter opens. These effects increase gastric emptying and reduce distension.
So if you think about it, gastrin's turning on the stomach, making it go more, making it digest more. So on our little notes here, we could say the whole purpose of gastrin is to increase the stomach activity. I'm trying to make the stomach growl more, digest more, make more acid. Okay? Can you guess what these 2 are going to do if gastrin makes the stomach go more? Yes. Let's find out. That's why I have a job. Secretin, which she calls it different.
The hormone secretin affects the intestinal phase of digestion.
Saucy.
Acidic chyme entering the duodenum is potentially damaging to intestinal mucosa. To counteract the acidity, S cells in the intestinal mucosa release secretin into the bloodstream.
Okay, so where's secretin made? In the S cells of the small intestine. It's made by the small intestine. So secretin is made by the small intestine, whereas gastrin is made by the stomach. Where's it going to go? Let's find out. The target must be someplace with acid. Let's find out.
Secretin targets acinar cells in the pancreas.
There's the answer. Where's it go? Pancreas. It targets the pancreas. So I'm going to go from the small intestines to the pancreas. Can you guess what I'm going to cause the pancreas to release? Not bile. Nope. Buffer.
The pancreas then produces and delivers more bicarbonate to the small intestine, buffering the gastric acid in the chyme and protecting intestinal cells.
Boom. So secretin's job is to increase the release of buffer. It increases buffer release. So secretin's job is to release more buffer. So gastrin's job is to make more acid. Secretin's job is to make more buffer. Right? More buffer release from the pancreas to reduce acidity. Okay, so secretin's job is to reduce the acidity in the small intestine, like the previous case. Here we go. Let's do our next one. Click on secretin.
Secretin also targets the acid-producing parietal cells of the gastric mucosa. An increase in secretin will inhibit the secretion of gastric acid.
So again, I'm trying to
The less
stop.
acid produced, the lower the acidity of the chyme moving into the duodenum.
So gastrin makes more acid, secretin makes less. Now, listen to the way she pronounced this.
The hormone cholecystokinin also regulates the intestinal phase of digestion.
You can say cholecystokinin, that's fine. I don't know where they get this cholecystic. No, that's fine. Just say CCK.
If fatty chyme enters the duodenum, enteroendocrine cells of the intestinal mucosa are stimulated to produce cholecystokinin, or CCK.
Okay, where's it made? Where's that?
CCK cell.
Made in the SI, small intestine. So small intestine is making the cholecystokinin. It's an Aussie way. Okay, so now we're going to target something. So we're going to go from our small intestines to where? Let's find out.
CCK targets pancreatic acinar cells and bile ducts.
All right, that means it targets the bile system. Okay, from that information alone, you can tell me why you're producing CCK. If it has to do something with bile, what's it for? Help break down fat. So we expect it to do something with fat. Let's try some more.
And stimulates more pancreatic lipases and bile to be released into the duodenum. As a result, a greater amount of fats in the chyme are digested.
There's the answer. So to increase fat digestion. So gastrin makes more acid and stomach go, secretin makes more buffer be released, and CCK increases the ability to digest fat. So these are the three hormones that are affecting the digestive system. Make sense? Now we're going to add another list over here that are about the nerves or the reflexes of digestion. We're going to try correlating these. Okay, so those are hormones. These are going to be nerves and things. And these are sometimes called phases. So you'll hear different books call them things. So number one, the first reflex or phase is called your cephalic phase or cephalic reflex. Can you tell me what part of your body might be involved with that one? That's your head, that's your brain. Okay. What does a brain have to do with digestion? Tells me I'm hungry. So the cephalic phase is when there's hunger, or you smell food, or you see food. I am food, right? Your brain is going to tell your digestive system to do something when you're hungry. What does your brain tell your digestive system to do?
Seek food.
Start working, right? So you're going to start the stomach activity. And how do you know your stomach starts when you're hungry? What's it do?
Growls.
It growls. It begins digesting. So when I'm in the cephalic reflux or phase, my brain tells my stomach, start being active. So what hormone do you think might be released in the cephalic phase? Answer me, guess.
Gastrin.
That's going to cause number one to increase. I should expect to see an increase in gastrin when I'm in my cephalic phase, because that's going to tell my stomach to go. I'm getting ready to eat. I drove past Burger King. Smelt the smell. All right? So let's walk through those.
Is that also when you salivate?
Salivate, Pavlov's dogs, it's dinner time. You know, someone brought me cookies. Okay. So to show you I'm not making this up much, let me show you this one here. So they call them the phases in this animation.
Regulation of stomach secretion is divided into 3 phases: cephalic, gastric, and intestinal. In the cephalic phase, the taste or smell of food, tactile sensation of food in the mouth, or thought of food sends nervous impulses to the medulla oblongata. These impulses cause parasympathetic neurons via the vagus nerves to stimulate secretion of hydrochloric acid and pepsin in the stomach. The parasympathetic stimulation also results in secretion of gastrin from the lower part of the stomach.
So I'm thinking about dinner, my stomach begins to go. I get more stomach activity. Right?
This hormone travels through the bloodstream and further stimulates hydrochloric acid and pepsin secretion in the upper and middle parts of the stomach. In the gastric phase of gastric secretion,
That's our next one. So what comes after the cephalic phase would be the gastric phase. So the second phase, or reflex, is the gastric phase. Can you guess what organ we're going to be talking about? That's a stomach phase. So these are going to be the nerves and stuff with the stomach. So the brain now has shifted control to the stomach. When is that? When you eat. When you eat food, you then shift control to your stomach. And what do you think a stomach would do when you start eating? When it need acid? When it need to churn?
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to do more activity, which means I'm going to use what hormone? So this one right here, so gastrin. All right. So I'm going to get more gastrin. I'm going to increase stomach activity. So more gastrin, even more gastrin. So my brain thinks about food or actually eat the food, my stomach has to go more. All right? So the way to remember that for your notes is both of these ones are saying go. They're telling your stomach to get it going. Right? So I'm thinking or eating food tells your stomach to go by increasing gastrin. So now I'm in the gastric phase. You should tell me about gastrin. Let's see if that's true.
secretion, food has entered and distended the stomach. This distension activates a parasympathetic reflex via the medulla oblongata and also has a direct stimulatory effect on the gastric glands. The result is continued secretion of hydrochloric acid and pepsin.
So I'm going to keep digesting.
In the intestinal phase,
Aha, number 3. What's our third phase? Intestinal phase. Or intestinal reflex, you can say lots of ways. By the way, Saladin hits you with a bigger word. He calls this the enteric. They're the same. So intestinal and enteric are the same. What organ do you think is doing something in the intestinal phase? The intestine, which one? Small intestine. So control now has moved from my brain to my stomach, from my stomach to my small intestine. What do you think a small intestine is going to say about all this food? It's going to say more or less. Which hormone might it want to use?
Less acid, more buffer.
Less acid, more buffer, so I think it's going to use this one. And what else might it want to do? Maybe this one? Yes. So when the small intestine takes over, it wants to decrease the stomach activity. Whoa, I'm trying to do my job, Mr. Stomach. So it's trying to turn off the stomach by turning up secretin and increasing CCK, which tells the stomach to do what? What's the opposite of go? Stop. So your stomach wants to go more and your intestines want it to go less. Why would the intestines want the stomach to go less besides the acid problem? What other reason might an intestine want to slow everything down? What your intestines do that no other organ does? Absorb. It takes time. So I don't want all this Whopper with cheese hitting me right now. I want you to slow down and give me time to digest and absorb. I'm trying to slow the system. So I expect it to try to turn off this and increase that. Let's see if that's true. We're now in the intestinal phase.
Of gastric secretion, chyme has entered the duodenum, so gastric secretion is no longer needed. When the chyme contains lipids from the digestion of fats or contains enough hydrochloric acid to bring its pH below 2, gastric secretion is inhibited.
See that last sentence right there? Gastric secretion is inhibited. I'm trying to turn off the stomach when I'm in intestinal phase. Your small intestine really doesn't like your stomach, so it's trying to yell at it basically.
The lipids and hydrogen ions inhibit gastric secretion by 3 simultaneous actions. First, they cause impulses to go to the medulla oblongata to decrease parasympathetic stimulation of the gastric glands. Secondly, they set up local reflexes via neurons in the wall of the gut that decrease gastric secretion. Thirdly, they cause the release of 3 local hormones which travel via the circulation to the gastric glands and inhibit their secretion.
So we look, secretin, which we've talked about. We're not going to do GIP, all right? But there's cholecystokinin. So the small intestine is releasing these hormones to basically order less acid, more buffer, more bile, and less stomach. So at the end of the day, it's trying to turn off your stomach. Make sense? Okay, but now we're going to add another level of detail here. So, which is this one here. We're going to go back to those hormones. And we're going to focus on the sphincters this time. Remember the sphincters? Right. Okay, let's go back to the gastrin sphincter. What did the gastrin sphincter do to, well, the gastrin sphincter. Okay, let's try that again. Gastrin hormone do to your sphincters. Let's find out.
Gastrin also targets smooth muscle cells in the gastric muscularis and pyloric sphincter. As a result, gastric motility increases and the pyloric sphincter opens.
So which sphincter did what?
Pyloric.
Pyloric sphincter opens. So gastrin's job is to open the pyloric sphincter. Remember last week that was a sphincter between your stomach and small intestine. Why would you want an open sphincter if you're gastrin? What are you trying to do if you're gastrin? That's right, I'm trying to get rid of the food, I'm trying to digest food. So I can just open the door and shove it to the next guy. Right? It's like throwing your leaves over the fence. So you're trying to open the door to get the food out of your stomach so it can be digested and moved on. So the stomach's trying to empty faster, be more active. So I'm opening the door. So can you tell me what you think the other hormones do to your sphincter? Let's find out. All right? I think you're right. Let's do this one.
CCK also regulates gastric emptying, the release of chyme into the small intestine. Certain stimuli, such as a distended duodenum, or fatty acids and partially digested proteins in the chyme, initiate the enterogastric reflex and promote the secretion of CCK. CCK then targets muscularis forming the pyloric sphincter, and the sphincter closes.
Boom. So CCK does what to your sphincter? Closes the sphincter. Oh, I just ran out of room there. So why would CCK want to close the pyloric sphincter?
Too much acid.
Too much stuff coming out. Look at me, I want to stop you. So the only way I can stop the stomach is to shut the door. Right, it's like being a parent, just close the door so you don't hear your kids yelling. So I open the door, let the food in. I close the door to keep the food out, to shut off the activity. Make sense? All right, so you have the 3 hormones that are regulating the system, and they're being told what to do by what phase you're in. Now we're going to make a graph. I can hear the groan. Let's make a graph. Oh, before I do that, I forgot to tell you one more thing. Hold on. There's one more little sentence you got to read first before I do the graph. I got excited.
The result, CCK helps decrease gastric motility and gastric emptying. High protein and high fat meals take the longest to digest because of the production of CCK and inhibited gastric emptying.
So read that one more time right there. So the more fat in my diet, the more it's going to take to empty. Does that make sense? That's the graph we're going to do. We're going to do a graph of CCK and fat. And we're going to see what that has to do with anything you want to do. Here we go. Let's make a graph. I'm over here. Fat in my meal. Over here. Okay? So, let's say I have a really nice fatty meal today. Some of the fat in my meal goes way, way up. What hormone is going to be affected most by the high fat content of my meal?
CCK.
CCK. So what should CCK do if I have lots of fat in the meal? Go up or go down?
Up.
Should go up. So we have an increase in CCK when my fat goes up in my meal. Everyone buy that? Okay. That's going to increase bile release, right? What's it going to do to my gastric emptying in my pyloric sphincter? Let's see. What's it do? It closes the sphincter. And that's going to decrease the stomach activity, right? Does that make sense? What do you feel when your stomach stops doing things?
Nothing.
You know, you feel something. When your stomach stops growling, you claim you're what?
Full.
Full. So, when that happens, you feel full because the stomach is staying full. It's not doing anything, it's not emptying. So they call it satiety. But you feel full because nothing's leaving my stomach. All right? Let's do the reverse. Suppose I don't have a lot of fat in my meal. Tell me what CCK is going to do. It's going to go down, right? And what's that going to do to my sphincter if I don't have CCK? Stays open, right? Open sphincter. And so what's my stomach going to do if the sphincter stays open? It's going to empty, right? So it's going to stay active. And what do you feel when your stomach is emptying quickly and it's really active? You claim you're hungry. Because that's exactly like what happened in number 1 and number 2. You're eating and your stomach's going like crazy, therefore your brain assumes you're hungry. That make sense? Let's talk about the fat-free diet, which was... Remember fat-free diets were the answer? What happened when everyone got the fat-free diet?
Everyone got Alzheimer's.
Besides that? Obesity went up, right? Now you know why. When I don't have fat in my meal, what do I feel? And what do you do when you're hungry? You eat more. So, when it increased eating, because to my body, I'm not full yet. And what do you eat if you have a no-fat diet? Lots of sugar, because sugar tastes good. So everyone ate more calories by never feeling full, so they gained more weight. That's why fat-free made people fatter. Right? It wasn't the ingredient, that's not the problem. It was the brain. Right? So how could you eat less? Anyone hazard me a guess? Eat more fat. Because if you eat fat, you feel fuller longer. Right? But there's a catch. There's 2 catches. Your mom told you, how long does that time take between eating and CCK? Your mom said it was?
20 minutes.
About 20 minutes. Anyone else want to admit? I'm the one of those people that can go through the drive-thru and pull back around to get the other fries the next time, right? Am I the one that I did that, right? Why? Why do I still go back to the drive-thru again? Anyone know how quickly I can eat? I eat like an orphan, right? I can inhale my food in the line, right? So I eat before the 20 minutes is up, so my brain doesn't realize I'm full, so I drive around for the next fry, and it takes a half hour later before my brain realizes I shouldn't have had those fries, right? So if you eat more fat slower, you will eat less, right? Next time you're in France, you see what they cook everything in, butter. They caught this centuries ago. The more butter I cook with, and the slower you eat, 5 hours, the less you're going to eat overall. That's why carbs make you hungrier, because there's no fat in them to make you feel full. You can try this at home. Get Cheerios for breakfast. Eat a bowl of Cheerios at 6 a.m. Your next bowl of Cheerios will be when? 6:30. And then your next one will be when? 7. And you'll eat the whole box by noon because you never feel full because there's no fat in Cheerios. Cereal companies knew this a century ago. That's why they keep selling them to you. Okay? But this is the CCK mechanism. CCK tells you to stop eating when there's fat. Right? No fat, and then no stop eating. Make sense? Cool. That's the why fat-free never worked. That's CCK. You okay, CCK? We got one more reflex to do. There's another one. Number 4. Yeah, go back. Right? Damn you. This one has 2 names, either colic reflex, or some people like to call it your colonic reflex. I don't care. What organ do you think is the colonic reflex?
Colon.
That's your colon land. What do you think your colon thinks of all this? What do you think it wants to do? It wants to poop. Very good. So it wants to push, which is peristalsis. Why would your colon want to push things around after eating?
Make room.
To make room. Everyone slide over one chair. So the food in the stomach goes in the small intestine, the food in the small intestine has to go in the large intestine, that food has to go someplace. It goes in the toilet. So the large intestine is basically shifting everything down 1. This is about an hour after you eat. So after about an hour after you eat, the colic reflex kicks in. Yes?
Can it be faster?
It can be. Depends on what you ate, partly. But let me show you that I'm not making this
I
up
was going
much.
to say like 20 minutes.
Some people can't.
Really? Yeah.
The presence of food in the stomach and chyme in the duodenum stimulates mass movements in the colon. Mass movements are integrated by the enteric plexus. They propel the contents of the colon toward the rectum. The presence of feces in the rectum stimulates parasympathetic and local reflexes that result in defecation.
Every new parent knows this. You feed the kid the bottle, you hit the clock, 40 minutes later their diaper is full. Because they do number 4. Right? That's the logic. You feed your baby, they poop afterwards. Right? Like clockwork. Your puppy that you feed, right? The reason you can send them outside is because you know an hour later they have to go. It's the same reflex kicking in. So all the reflexes sort of go in this order over about an hour. Make sense? So we're going to play around with that reflex. So, not in that way, it sounded wrong. Let's play with your colon, right? Try this. Let's talk about Dolores for a minute. Yes. I am a giant sphincter. I am. We're going to do this one as a class. So we have Dolores, nice old lady, 65 years old. Lots of bad things happen, more bad things happen, and more bad things happen. So let's see what happens. She has cramps, she loses a lot of weight, fatigue. Oh, doctor, bright red blood in my poo. They come out like rabbits, and I don't have any sounds in my bowels. Okay, so what organ is being affected in Dolores?
Large intestine.
That's her large intestine. aka colon, aka large bowel in Britain. All right, so now let's figure out why cramping is after a meal. Take a look at those 4 things over there and hazard me a guess why it's worse after she eats. She's pushing when? When does your large intestine push? After you eat. So this is number 4, that reflex, the colic reflex. The colic reflex is always after you. Notice it says here, about the hour following her meal. So she eats, everyone slides down 1, the large intestine begins to cramp. So this is that reflex. What phase is that? That's the colic reflex. Make sense? What does blood in your poo signify? Rip, a tear, damage. Should there be blood in your poop?
No.
No, remember the large intestine should absorb into the blood, not add blood out. Right? That's called a hemorrhoid or a tear or a fistula. So she's doing something that's tearing her large intestine, so she's bleeding when she poops. Make sense? That's bad. Now we have to figure out this part. Why is there nothing going on and she has little rabbit pellets for poop? Okay, let's first off figure out what bowel sounds are. What are bowel sounds? The sounds of your mouth. Good. Good. That's good. Right. So should you have any? Yes. So when you're doing peristalsis, there should be sounds. So this means there's no peristalsis or lower peristalsis. You can reduce peristalsis. The organs are not pushing as much. Make sense? Okay, now tell me why you have a small caliber stool is the fancy way to say it.
It's absorbing.
What's absorbing? Too much what? Too much water. Let's make a graph. All right. Yeah, I can hear the graphs. All right, let's make another graph. Right here. So I'm going to graph speed of your food in your large intestine, how fast it's going through, versus time. So if I speed up your large intestine and make it go more, I'm going to absorb more. And what does your absorb less, I should say. Absorb less. If I can slow down your large intestine, I'm going to absorb more because there's more time to absorb. And what is your large intestine absorbing?
Water.
Water. So if her large intestine isn't moving food, that means she spends all day long absorbing water. And you absorb the water, what's left behind? Dry poop. What do you call it, the nursing home where you work, where old mans are complaining about their dry poop? That's called constipation. Okay, so let's do the reverse. If you're pushing through faster and you're not getting the water in you, it stays in, what do you call that? That's called diarrhea. Because the water you didn't absorb stays in the feces. So you're too fast to absorb the water, not enough absorption. Too slow, you absorb too much. Right? So she doesn't have bowel sounds. She's slowing down her large intestine. Therefore, she absorbs too much water. Therefore, the stool gets too hard and constipated. Make sense? Cool, eh? All right, so let's do a little detour. So what are all the old people at your nursing home eating and drinking to help solve this problem?
Prune juice.
Prune juice. And what's in prune juice? Fiber. Let's talk about fiber. Metamucil, right? What is fiber made of? It was on the animation last week. Cellulose. Good man. And remind us from Biology 112 what cellulose is. Plant material. Plants are made out of cellulose, right? Okay, so what did it say about cellulose on the animation last week?
Doesn't break down.
Indigestible. Very good answer. Is that an I word? Nibble? No, better. And And why is it indigestible? Because you don't have a what? No enzyme. If you look at your list, there is no cellulase anywhere in your chart. Therefore, you cannot eat plants and digest them. No mammal can digest a plant. Worthless trivia. So, Grandpa is eating lots and lots of Metamucil, which is ground up plant parts. So what does that do to the speed of his intestines if you can't digest it? What do you have to do with it?
Close it down.
You have to speed it up, right? You have to push more. So you push it out. So fiber makes your intestines push faster. Roughage. I can't digest it, so I have to push it. So what would happen to your speed if you push it out faster? It goes up, which means then you're no longer as constipated or you get runnier diarrhea. Right? If you don't believe this, I'll give you 10 pounds of prunes to eat tonight and you tell me what happens. Right? That's why your dairy cows have that watery splat of a cow pie. What do they eat all day? Cows eat only this, hence they poop really a lot. Right? I'm on a farm, I know this trick. Right? So any plant material increases the speed through the intestines because you can't digest it. All you can do is push it. Because you just push it faster through. Roughage as speed. Make sense? So Dolores has no speed in her intestines, so she's stuck down here in the dry land. Right? So let's go back to our case study. Look at the next question. What did it ask about Dolores? She has anemia. Why? By the way, it has nothing to do with her colon directly.
Losing blood.
She's losing blood in her stool. So go back to last term. If I lose blood, the iron is not being recycled. Therefore, she has iron deficient anemia. She's bleeding out and not putting the iron back in. Make sense? So let's do these bottom ones, more for your education as future nurses than for class. But we have some words here. Someone tell me what OMA means in medical terminology.
Yeah.
What was it? Yeah, like a tumor, a growth, right? So what is carcinoma versus adenoma? What's adenoma mean versus a carcinoma? Let's do the easy one. Carcinoma means cancer. That means malignant. Cancer. It spreads. It's metastasizing. So your skin cancers, your basal cell carcinoma. So what's an adenoma? Just a tumor, just a lump, benign. Just a lump. So you can have adenomas, which are just growths that aren't spreading, aren't cancerous per se. And carcinoma means they're the ones that are actually trying to be cancerous, spread around. So she has stuff plugging her large intestine, and the doctors analyze that it's a type of a lump. But those are the OMA words that you'll know in your nursing career. Make sense? So basal cell carcinoma means cancerous. If you have an adenoma here or there, that means it's not as bad. Make sense? So it's on the bowel. So you're doing the colic reflex by pushing the food through. Question on that one? Clear as mud, clear as coffee. All right. Fantastic. All right. Questions at all on digestion? I think we're done with digestion, to be honest with you. We are.
Good. That's on my page.